The concat creation operator lets you create an observable from a variable number of other observables you supply. On subscription, concat will subscribe to the inner observables in order, so as the first completes, the second is subscribed to, and so on. Any values emitted by inner observables are emitted by concat. For instance, in this example, concat subscribes to observable 1 first. On completion of observable 1, concat will then subscribe to observable 2, and so on if more observables were supplied. Let's take a look at this in code and check out a few examples. To understand the behavior of concat, let's start with the basic example using a 1-second interval. Concat, like merge, is a static creation operator, so we can import it from the base RxJS path. Like other creation operators that join together multiple observables, concat takes one-to-many observables as arguments. For this first example, let's just apply our interval observable twice. Now let's go ahead and subscribe, and we'll just log the emitted values to the console to see how this works. Concat, like concat_map, subscribes to the observables you provide in order, emitting any emitted values from these observables. So, in this case, this first interval never completes, so the second will never be activated. To see this more clearly, let's add the take operator to these observables to complete them after a few emissions. So let's go ahead and import take now. And we'll apply take to the first interval, taking the first 3 values. And we'll also add take to the second interval, and for this one, let's just take 2 values. And let's go ahead and save. Now we can see the first interval emitting values, then completing, and then the second interval is activated emitting 2 values before completing. Concat works like a single file line. Whenever you have multiple observables you want to execute in order, you can use concat. The last thing I want to cover in this lesson is the use of concat as a pipable operator. For instance, let's have some fun and we'll imagine you need to follow a flow in your app displaying certain messages to the user before they enter. One way you could do this would be to use a static concat operator, but you can also use concat as a pipable operator to activate an observable on completion of a pre-existing stream. To see how this may work, let's help create this flow using the empty, start with, and delay operators. So let's import empty now, and we'll remove the static concat import. Next, let's add the concat pipable operator import as well as start with and delay. Next, let's create a constant called delayed, and we'll just make an empty observable. And let's have it complete after 1 second by adding delay, and we'll pass 1000. So we want this delayed observable to be our trigger, so once this completes, all the observables we supply to concat will then fire in order. To do this, let's swap out this current concat observable, and we'll use delayed. And let's call pipe adding in the concat operator. This, like static concat, accepts one-to-many observables, which now will be subscribed to in order after the completion of the source observable. So for this example, let's just display the messages 3, 2, 1, go in order with a 1 second delay between each message being displayed. To do this, let's add a delayed observable to concat. We can then add the start with operator with the message we want to display. So for the first message, let's say 3. And let's go ahead and copy this down and update it for our next 3 messages. So the next message will say 2, and the third, let's update to 1. Finally, the last message will say go. We also probably want to tell the user to get ready before starting this countdown, so let's add the start with operator to our main observable, and we'll have it emit get ready. So on load now, our observable will be subscribed to, displaying the initial message of get ready. Then after 1 second, our source observable will complete, subscribing to the first observable in concat, which will say 3. After that completes, the next observable will be subscribed saying 2, and so on. Let's save and see how this looks. You can see in the console that our messages 3, 2, 1, go are printed in order and at the interval we want it. While this is a silly example, you can start to see how you can use the ordering capability of concat-based operators to not just initiate ordered network requests, but also create some interesting UI interactions or, potentially, animations. To recap, the concat operator lets you join multiple observables, subscribing in order as the previous observable completes. Use concat if you need to maintain order for functionality such as network requests or for certain UI displays like ordered messaging or even animations. There's also a concat pipeable operator available, although I would suggest you default to the static concat operator as it tends to be much easier to read and understand.